You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, and good morning. Welcome, everyone, to Sudbury News Talk. On the morning shift, I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that you are here with us. We got a great show planned for you today. So just get my camera all set up here, positioned right. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio. We're also streaming online at cklU.ca for those joining us from here in Sudbury or abroad around the world. Many people checking in and have checked in, and that's the way that they kind of keep in touch with Sudbury is through CKLU online, and like to just former graduates of CKLU or just people that have volunteered, have been part of the station, or just like community radio. And I've heard many people checking in that have lived in Sudbury and then want to kind of keep their finger on the pulse through CKLU. So we've been around since 1984. It's your campus and community radio station, pretty much entirely run on volunteer hours and people and donations. And they also have some real cool stuff now. You can go and support CKLU by going on their website and just purchasing some really cool swag. Been around since 1984, like I said. We're broadcasting from the old Telegraph building, corner of Elm Street and Elgin. And it's all part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture, all under the guises of Laurentian University. Now, any of the disclaimer, any of the comments made on this show are the responsibility and accountability taken from the host, myself, and also those who comment. I will read your comments that come up. I'll do my best to get them up on the screen. I'll read them. And so it's a disclaimer for yourself. If you do comment on the show, which I encourage you to do, I will read it, but you have to take accountability for your own comments as well, because I can't take responsibility for your comments. And that's just the way, even though our world seems to be getting more and more away from that kind of thing. That's the disclaimer. So it has our comments on this show. We take full responsibility. They do not necessarily reflect those of Laurentian University staff or faculty there, or those of anyone affiliated with CKLU. So yeah, we're also streaming at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, all that while we still can. While there's still news being able to be shared through Facebook, which owns Instagram as well, and Google, which also owns YouTube. So these are the platforms that the government has tried to make Bill C-11, Bill C-18, the Online News Act, to, somehow encourage Canadian content, and at the same time just took it right off any social media. So thanks for those bills, I guess. Canadians will now not be able to have news shared easily like they used to. So I guess it backfired, or was it the original intent in the first place to make it harder for us to get news? We'll get into that a little bit later. I shared a story about CSIS's report, I think back in 2015, talking about Chinese infiltration of our media, and then also that being tied to infiltration of our elections. So that'll be a good bit of a deep dive later on. Goes along with, I think, this whole idea of information being shared, whose information can be shared, what's dangerous, what's not, who's the one in charge of saying what's dangerous and what isn't, those types of things. But anyways, to keep it light, the weekend's coming up. It's going to be a long weekend, and I know a lot of people are excited that it's Friday. So with that, good morning, Monique. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, Sudbury. Hope you're having a great Friday. Vin, good morning. Hope you're having a great morning as well. Looking forward to the weekend. Judy, good morning. Hope you're having a great Friday. Belinda, good morning. She says, what we know matters, but who we are matters more. And I can't agree more with that statement. Thank you very much, Belinda, for those positive statements each and every day. Probably not easy to come up with one every day, right? But you've been really good to keep them coming. Shane, happy Friday. Anxious for the long weekend, as I think many of us are. Grateful for long weekends. Good morning, Monique. And no, Maurice. Sorry about that. My eyes. Maybe I'll get a new set of glasses sometime soon. Good morning, Maurice. Thanks for being with us. Nice sunny emoji. And Denise. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us, Denise. Thank God it's Friday. That's from Ryan. Yes, definitely. Looking forward to this long weekend here in Canada, here in Sudbury. And so with that, let's dive right into some weather. We'll then come back with the news headlines of the day and talk about maybe why the elections went the way they did most recently, and maybe why we're talking about the things we're talking about all the time in the media, and what is that leading to in terms of our country and stuff. Could it lead to foreign interference? Those types of things on a deep dive, but many, many local stories, including there could be a city strike looming for the outside workers. There was a storm yesterday, caused some damage, things like that. But then we'll get into more of the media situation and what we can expect. Belinda says, my little way of contributing to be a better person to everyone. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate those positive statements and the reason for doing them. Well, with that, we'll be back after the weather, right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Currently, it is 15 degrees here in Greater Sudbury, mostly cloudy. Today, we can expect a mix of sun and cloud with a 30% chance of showers. Early this morning, fog patches dissipating in the morning, high of 23. Humidex, however, 26. UV index will be 6 or high. Tonight, clearing. Late this evening, fog patches developing after midnight, low of 11. And then tomorrow, sunny, which is Saturday. Fog patches going away in the morning. High 24, humidex 26, so it's going to be a beautiful day. Forecasted to be one anyways. UV index 7 or high. And then Sunday, forecasted to be cloudy, high of 23. 20 on Monday, but possibility of rain. They don't say how much. It just says rain. So I guess that's 100% chance, according to Environment Canada. Tuesday, 30% chance of showers, high of 23. High of 22 on Wednesday, mix of sun and cloud. And then Thursday, 60% chance of showers, high of 22. We've definitely been getting the precipitation that we need. It's no longer so dry, and I'm sure that's helping the fire situation here in Northern Ontario for sure. Look at your satellite view of Northern Ontario. This was taken about 2.5 hours ago, so pretty recent. You can see the cloud activity in a circle, pretty much Timmins to North Bay, the Tri-Towns, all the way down to pretty much the North Shore, all the way to Sault Ste. Marie, a big circle there of clouds. And that's your Sudbury weather. It's brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Lands on our Sudbury.news Facebook page, which may become more important as it is a news aggregator. And as we see less and less news being able to, we'll see zero news being able to be shared on our Facebook. that might be a place you could go to get local news. Sudbury News at sudbury.news. We'll be back with news and headlines and all that right after this. Okay, and welcome back. We have a few more people with good morning salutations. So thanks for everyone being on so far this morning. Mona, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Natalie says, thank God it's Friday and it's going to be a perfect weekend to enjoy Capriol Days. Yes, Capriol Days this weekend. Thanks for the shout out there, Natalie. Capriol's been having a lot of great stuff going on. And I'm sure even Mike might be planning on going there. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining us as well. Capriol Days. Yeah. Capriol is a happening place. I just got to say that. It's like every week or they have something in the news of some activity going on in the town. And I think they're just a really great example of what a community can be, a little community in part of our larger community, where I think we're at an advantage living in Sudbury, where we have all of these surrounding areas that have their own little communities and things to offer and events going on. And so we can kind of get out there and enjoy all of the little smaller communities that we have in and around Greater Sudbury. So Capriol Days this weekend. Check it out online. All you have to do, just Google Capriol Days, and you'll find out all of the stuff going on there. So thanks, Natalie, for that. And so here, we won't get into this right away. We'll come back to it. We'll circle back. Story that I found this morning, oddly enough, but it's something that's been happening for quite a while, but because this particular news outlet just shared it this morning, I was able to come across it. CSIS, Communist China bribing mainstream Canadian media. Some of us would say, well, I'm not surprised. I kind of would figure that anyways. 2019 government report said that the CCP is influencing mainstream Canadian journalists. And I just, posed the question, China bribing mainstream media in Canada? Could CSIS be wrong? Possibly. Maybe they're wrong. I don't know. But they have a report saying that, in fact, mainstream media is being bribed with quite a bit of money, actually. And so we'll have to go back to that. So stay tuned. If you're listening on the radio and you might not have time as we go through some of the local stories to catch that, you can catch this show on YouTube afterwards. It's there on demand, and Facebook, as long as it's going to be allowed to be on there. We're still there for now. You can catch the show later on Facebook, youtube.com/Sudbury News, facebook.com/Sudbury News. So short video, Long Lake Road of from the storm yesterday, a real live wire on Sudbury's Long Lake Road. So Thursday afternoon, Frank Rasico took this video. And anyways, yeah, quite the storm. I guess while it's loading, Sudbury Star also did a story on it. But, they didn't put any commercials in front of it. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, this is what it looked like on Long Lake Road after there was a live wire on the road. Pretty incredible. I've never seen anything like that before.
Did you call what?
So that's right by Walmart.
Well, I guess we'll be out of power for a little
You can kind of tell where that business is. If you're from Sudbury, driving around, you know where that location is, but pretty dangerous. And that is a pretty busy roadway as well. So hopefully nobody was hurt from that. Stephen chiming in here. So I guess this goes back to what we're going to be talking about a little bit later. Federal agencies are only right when the theorists want them to be right. Interesting. Belinda says, sometimes something that is evil and corrupt needs to come down so that something fair and true can take its place. Yes. Well, you see, it's kind of like a pendulum too, right, in our society. And it's all like the yin and yang symbol, you got on the one side mostly white with a little bit of black in it, and on the other side it's mostly black with a little bit of white in it. And that's the world we live in. And each and every one of us, are made up of good qualities, really great qualities, good habits, good intentions. And also, if you look deep, 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 deep inside, possibly, you'll see that maybe there's some things that we're not so good at, that we're not so blessed with, and maybe there's a little bit of stuff we need to work on that isn't so good. And so we're made up of good and bad, and hopefully we're working on the good. Like you said, Belinda, you're working on that each and every day, right? So hopefully a lot of us are as well. And we couldn't expect a perfect world, and so there's going to be great things about government, let's say, great things about media. But there's also, it's not all great. It can't be all great because it's not the world we live in. Something to be 100% true and right is about as rare as you can get. Pure, unadulterated truth and righteousness, let's say, very hard to come by. And so everything is going to have something to be tainted, a little bit tainted. And so I wouldn't, if I was China, and let's face it, they have some pretty large goals to be the world power, and to oust the United States from that position, which they're doing a great job of, and it's almost done. You got to do things like this. Like, that's just part of the thing. Like, I mean, put yourself in Xi Jinping's position, and you wanted world dominance. Well, how would you do it? Right? So we'll get back to that anyways. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. I wanted to cover some of the more local stuff, but I guess, Stephen, one more comment here. CSIS is only right when the theorists want them to be right. If they said the convoy was being funded by American right-wing nuts, then nope, CSIS is wrong. Oh, is that what CSIS said? They were funded by American right-wing extremists? I never read that report. I just thought that was people in politics. I didn't think that was CSIS. I could be wrong, though, Stephen. So I'll have to look into that. We'll see. I didn't realize how bad things until COVID. I see nothing but corruption now. Canada is in a very tough place, and we need to pay attention to get out of it. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I guess we're having a lot of build up to our conversation later. Maybe tell the Prime Minister that he's yet to respect their evidence or even act on it. Well, according to Stephen, it's just whoever wants the information to be a certain way. We shouldn't even really have an intelligence agency, I guess, but that's what I mean. Could they be wrong? That's what I put in the caption. Could they be wrong? According to Stephen, yeah, they could be wrong too. China wouldn't be interfering with, why would they be interfering with us? What kind of reason would they have to do that? Denise says, as Africa is united into one, the world is about to experience an awakening. Interesting. Yeah, you sent me a video, Denise, earlier, but I was getting the show prepared, so I wasn't able to look at it yet, so I will watch that later. And I saw Africa in the title of that, so thank you. Again, purity, unadulterated is not the aim. it's an approximate target. Truth should still be aimed for, even if aimed at, I would think you're saying, even if it can't be pure, for sure. Yeah. Truth should be the goal, obviously. And that's the goal of this show. 100% is to ask questions, and usually asking questions gets you to the bottom of things. So that's why our courts are set up the way they are. Because you have witnesses that come to the stand, and what do they do with them? Question them. The judge questions, the lawyers question, and the media should be that for the people, questioning things. And if you have a foreign government interfering with the media and they're not asking the questions they need to, they're told what they should be doing, well, at least if they accept the bribe. If you don't accept the bribe, well, then you don't have to do what your briber is asking you to do, right? You can still continue to ask questions, and I haven't been bribed recently or ever, so I haven't accepted any bribes, so I'm open to ask questions, and that's really all we can do. Or even the thought of asking questions, even the idea, the theory that we need to be asking questions all the time to get to the bottom of things. And those who say, no, questions are dangerous. Questions are dangerous. You need to question their motives, because it's like somebody who's guilty of something and they get all mad and say, don't you trust me? Don't you trust me? And they don't want to answer questions. What? You're asking me because you don't trust me? Right away, something's up. That's I think the litmus test on that one. Well, look how easily I get sucked into things, and wanted to get through the local news first and get back to this. But anyways, okay, so Denise says, I've been watching this for many years. The will of the people matter, and in Canada we don't have that will anymore. Yeah, we have been historically apathetic as a people, for sure. Okay, so Stephen says, what? Nowhere did I even hint that there should not be a CSIS, only that they should be believed along with other agencies. Exactly. And we'll get into their report a little bit later on what they've said about Chinese interference, not only with our media, but our politicians. And that should be expected, I would think. It's not a surprise, right? Radio host qualifies his assertion that he was not bribed recently, or at all. That's what I said, right? If you want to quote me on that, wasn't bribed recently or at all, and have never and will never accept a bribe from anyone for anything, ever. Because I'm not about that at all, and I never will be. Again, make the suggestion to Trudeau. That's Vin, yes. Belinda says, seriously, we went from 2 weeks of flatten the curve, 2 years later, fighting for basic fundamental rights. So tired of the mantra, we're all in this together. For sure. Jerome says, good holiday, long weekend, morning, you critical thinkers. Yes, critical thinkers. Firstly, we think, right? And ask questions. Always ask questions. That's why parents or adults sometimes find children so annoying. And I think I've come to this conclusion. It's because they just can't say, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. They're kind of poking at the pride of the individual. Why? So here, we need to eat this now. Why? Well, because it's good for you. Why? Okay, stop asking so many questions. Instead of saying, you know what, I don't really know. It's just something I've eaten and I've done a little research on it. It should be healthy for you. Why? Because your body needs nutrients. It's like a machine, and it's like a car with gas. Instead of us taking the time to explain to little children who are asking us, we get frustrated and we're like, stop asking so many questions. Just do it. But it's the thing. It gets to the thing. It really does. It gets to asking questions, really gets to the crux of the matter. Okay, so methinks thou doth protest too much. Okay, that's Stephen. Thanks for the Shakespearean language. much appreciated. We don't have enough of that in our society, by the way, and we need more Shakespeare, I would say. Not enough Shakespeare. Denise, cell towers, the report warned that Beijing is the foremost perpetrator of foreign interference in Canada. Its agents are uncensored, are unconcerned about repercussions, the report says, because of the lack of obstacles such as foreign influence, the foreign influence registry of of its kind established in the United States and Australia. Yeah, Canada is an easy target. There's no doubt about it. And if you said anything about it, you could be deemed racist too. If you said, "Oh, I know someone who is they're working for China," and if they're Chinese, if you say that, you're deemed a racist. So what better culture could you be infiltrating than a culture that, when you're coming in to infiltrate it, is calling its own citizens who are catching it racists? That's awesome. And if I was in China, I would be like around the table going, that is so cool. We're able to infiltrate a country that acts like that. And I'd laugh too, because it's funny. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. We know the country we live in, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, so another country comes in and infiltrates you. You see them doing nefarious things, and you go, wait a minute, that guy's not doing. Hey, they're against they're from another country, and they're here to do things that aren't so good for our country. You're a racist. It's awesome. Like, who come up with that? That's great. As a war tactic, that's incredible. Its own people fight its own people against your infiltration. That's amazing. Good morning. Stay safe. Still at Extendicare, York Rehab. Thanks for the update, David. And again, hope you make a quick recovery. And I know it's not the easiest place to be in, so hopefully you're getting along there. Okay. And now I'm just going to have to show the comments, because we got to move on, because we want to actually get to the story that we're talking about right now. We haven't even got there yet. Okay, so comments up on the screen for those listening on the radio. You'll have to go back and watch it later. Appreciate all your comments as usual. Photo gallery: storm rocks parts of Greater Sudbury. Look at this photo. That's a tree coming down in someone's backyard. It was quite a storm. You know, it just kind of came and went. Little thing, you know, it was like a huge burst of whatever, and then done, and then another round of something, and then done yesterday. And I know around Espanola they had some fierce hail as well. I don't know where that is. Yeah, right here. Thursday's hailstorm outside of Espanola. And I don't know if that's someone shared the video, the same as what we did with the downed power line on Long Lake Road, but I think it is. Could be wrong. I don't know. It's got an ad, so maybe it's not. Some more comments here. Get them up on the screen from Belinda and Stephen. There we go. So yeah, we'll get more into the Chinese interference story in a bit, but here's the video of the hail coming down just outside of Espanola yesterday. You can hear it coming down on the car. You know. So weather happens in and around Greater Sudbury, North Shore, Espanola. So hopefully anyone who is driving through that were not injured or the car wasn't damaged in any way. Here we go. Okay. So big hail in Levac as well yesterday, Vin says. So yeah, I noticed it was just pockets of different types of weather all over, just spurts of it. Okay. So this brings us to something we wanted to talk about a bit today as well. So new service at Sudbury Safe Consumption Site. Something that I feel a bit passionate about personally. I am a person, and I do have personal thoughts. even though I'm conducting and facilitating a conversation on a show in which I do share my personal thoughts on, which each and every one of us do as well, and you're invited to do the same through commenting, is the rapid drug testing equipment now at supervised consumption site. Sudbury's supervised consumption site, the Spot, as it's named, has acquired a drug analysis device able to provide real-time drug checking services, allowing people to use drugs to test their substances, allowing people who use drugs to test their substances for toxicity or unintended adulterants. So the system's called Amplify ID Drug Analysis System. It produces results in approximately 10 minutes and can detect fentanyl, carfentanil, benzoyl, whatever that is. Sorry about that. Benzoyl iazepines. I apologize for the pronunciation on that on the fly. Sure, if I took some time and went over it. Xylazine, cocaine, methamphetamines, and MDMA, among other substances. Only a small amount, about 5 milligrams, is needed to generate the result. 5 milligrams, that to me sounds like a lot. But okay, the team at the Spot is excited to begin offering this service to the drug-using community, said Amber Fritz, the manager of the supervised consumption services, the Spot. Purchasing drugs from an unregulated market, says Fritz, prevents people from knowing what they're consuming. Utilizing drug checking services provides potentially life-saving knowledge to the individual and their peers. End of quote. Drug checking is an evidence-based harm reduction tool that generates data to identify local trends and increase toxicity. That's from a release from the Spot. It will support drug warnings or alerts with information specific to this region. This service is available to anyone wishing to have their substances checked. The drugs do not have to be consumed at the supervised consumption site. I don't understand that myself. It's a supervised consumption site, but you can use it if you want. If you walk in there, you can bring drugs in and out and use them wherever you want. So anyways, so the drugs do not have to be consumed at the supervised consumption site to access the service. However, those who consume by injection, oral, or nasal routes of administration are welcome to use the consumption room. The drug checking service offered at the supervised consumption site is confidential, anonymous, free of charge. And I wonder how it's free of charge. So it's free of charge because your taxes pay for it, right? So it's free of charge as a service, but it's being paid for by you. And is provided in a non-judgmental, supportive environment. Trained staff conducting the drug checking explain the process step by step, provide an in-depth interpretation of the results, and discuss the potential risks associated with the results. Again, right? So awesome that we're protecting people from bad drugs. That's, I think, one step. It's like saying, okay, we need to go on a trip somewhere, pack your luggage, and we'll make sure you got everything in your luggage. Good luck. Yeah, but where are we going? How are we getting there? Who's buying the tickets? Who's paying for the hotel? No. Here's your suitcase. Everything's good. You got everything you need. Thanks. Have a good one. So again, that's there's steps to going on a trip, and it ends. There's all kinds of steps. Buy tickets, make reservations at a hotel, plane tickets, itinerary, and how you getting back. You get to buy the plane tickets, come back, all that. So a user of drugs, sure, safe consumption is part of the process. You would hope that as a society, we would want that person, the end goal would be to return to being human, meaning someone who's not, their life isn't given over to something that controls them each and every waking hour of the day. Sure, it's safe. It still controls them, though. They're still not in charge of their own mind or actions because something has a grip on them, right? So I love the idea of safe consumption. Keeps you alive, hopefully for the next step of rehabilitation. Harm reduction, which is great. Rehabilitation should be the end goal. Let's get these people on their trip of life safely home. You know, don't just send them off into the oblivion with their new safe drugs. You know, and what are they doing? They don't have to do them there. They can go out and go into a dangerous circumstance or alley while they're not even in the right mind, walk out in front of a car and get hit. Well, that's really helpful. You know, we've seen an increase of that in Greater Sudbury. So, again, are we going to go the way of Toronto? Just hand out cocaine kits and meth kits to people? It's safe. It also could start people off on the path of addictions as well. If it's free, it's free. Here's all the things you need to do it. Right? So, Steven says, money well spent, for sure. Exactly. So many comments here. Just going through them to get through so we can, again, right? It's everyone has an opinion on what should be done with this situation that we are in. Speaking of foreign interference, where does fentanyl mainly come from? Does anyone know? Where does the biggest supply of fentanyl come from? Just a question for you. You can just, maybe it's a little homework for the long weekend. You can look that up. Wonder if there's some dots to connect there. And so there you go. So that's that. We can now test drugs to make sure that there's no traces of harmfulness in them, which I think is great. It is needed. It's one step, however, that we just haven't gone any of the other steps in the right direction. And thanks to Dawn, who I met with yesterday, who found us listening to CKLU and was able to email me and said, the show's, he's a fan of the show. He likes the concept and the model of it and the conversation that we're able to have. It's unique as far as he was saying yesterday. We met together, which was a really great meeting. He told me of this individual who will be putting a rehabilitation center. They're bringing a rehabilitation center to Sudbury. I knew nothing of this. And so I will have this individual on the show to explain the program, what they're all about. They're 80% they have 80% success rate of people that go through the program that are no longer using. That's what we need to see. And guess who it's run by? Mainly recovered addicts. Wow. What an epiphany. That's exactly what needs to happen. So if you really rehabilitate someone instead of just enable them their whole lives and give them safe drugs, which is great, safe. Okay, they're not going to die, which we don't want anyone dying. But then you rehabilitate that person or help them, assist them. They gotta want it. But you help them in this process. Then guess who becomes an advocate for the ones that are still struggling? That person. They go right back and they want to help other people find the same pathway back to their own humanity that they were able to find. And they want to show others how to do it. You can't have a more baked in perfect system than that. So if you rehabilitate somebody, but you got to have a system, you got to have a way to rehabilitate them first, which we don't have in Sudbury. And it doesn't look like there's that concerted of an effort to look towards that, because we're kind of more ideologically based on what our current administration really wants to just focus on, and that's the poorest form of harm reduction that there is in the world, as we had a journalist who focused on this particular subject pretty much mainly and was able to point out very eloquently that Canada has adopted the harm reduction method for handling our opioid crisis, but it's the worst form of it in the world. So not only, anyways, so I guess it's political, and we want to align ourselves with certain political ideologies. And I guess we're going to have that come in the way of helping people recover from this addiction. We'd rather just have them stay addicted safely and walk around like zombies in our city and possibly get hit by a car. Where does that make any sense whatsoever? And then encourage more drug addiction by giving out free safe kits and educate them on how to do it. And it's cheaper to get into than buying it yourself. At least if you know, this is the thing, right? If you took a drug and you thought it was going to kill you, that could prevent you from taking it. That's almost like that's a harm reduction, if you ask me. If you take this, it could kill you. That could prevent harm. Just the idea of that, right? We're taking that away now. Even that's oh, you mean no matter what I do, I'll be safe and I can just live in another world and escape from this world? Why should we need to escape this world? Why does this world get so it's getting so bad, we're needing more and more reasons to escape it. You almost, my heart goes out to people that struggle from addiction, because they're trying to escape it, and we can all relate to why they'd want to escape this world. We should make the world a better place. And then those who've made the decision that they want to check out and use drugs to escape, help them come back. Say, the world isn't so bad. You can make it back. You can be somebody in this world and have a positive life and make a difference, and mainly make a difference to those who are struggling just like you, right? So we might be heading to a strike here in the city with an August 9th potential strike, which is right around the corner. It looks like 5 days from now. Municipal workers took to the streets by hosting another information picket outside Tom Davies Square on Thursday evening, last night. We're spreading the word. This is QP Local 4705. He's President Brian Keith. We're spreading the word as much as we can. They were talking with Sudbury.com, which the story is coming from. They might host another picket this weekend with employees, and they're mainly from road maintenance, parks, recreation, wastewater services, things like that, and could initiate a strike as early as August the 9th. Although Keith said he's trying to be optimistic that they'll reach an agreement with the city before then, it's really more hopefully optimistic, mixed with some pessimism. Last week, Keith told Sudbury.com that a key sticking point in the collective bargaining negotiations has been a provision for forced overtime, which City Council approved. The forced overtime would affect winter sidewalk maintenance crews, who are currently requested but not mandated to work overtime when needed. Another grievance is with weekend scheduling for distribution and collection of wastewater and water staff. So Keith told Sudbury.com on Thursday, in the proposed agreement, all staff would be made to work rotating weekends, which they are not currently made to do. So there's some stuff here that they need to work out, and I guess they're pointing to the city council for voting on looks like mandatory overtime. Hopefully they can come to an agreement, because I don't know how that would impact the city. I could see it impacting us. if city workers are on strike, and those services will be definitely impacted. Okay, so that's that. Gas prices. What the heck? Gas prices. Gotta love the CBC covering this, though. Again, remember we talked about asking questions as journalists? Does anyone know why gas prices are so high? And they fluctuate so much. So they go up 10% overnight, and then they slowly come down 10%, 10 cents a liter overnight, and then it slowly comes down after that, a little incrementally, and it goes up and it comes down slowly. Does anyone know the reason for that? How long have we had gas for? How long have we had gas companies? How long have we had government who taxes gas? How long have we had this and we still have no answers why gas is the way it is? It's almost like the same reason why we questioned back in the day when we had phone bills we couldn't even read or understand. Couldn't understand your phone bill, all these charges and fees and things. You could be a PhD and you couldn't understand your phone bill. Well, what's up with that? It's the same thing. What's up with the gas prices? We know there's a hefty carbon tax put on. That's all we know. And then all I hear is it's these greedy oil companies. Greedy oil companies. They, really? So governments couldn't regulate like they do anything? Greedy companies, and gas is a thing everybody, it's a need in our society, right? So why does it go up 10 cents a liter overnight and then slowly come down? And why is it more expensive in some areas than others? Remember Sturgeon Falls back in the day was always cheaper, but they would always say, oh, it's because of the transportation. You're further north. Remember hearing that? People telling you that? Remember the news telling you that? The trusted news, the journalists that we have, not to get on, not to harp on them too much. But yeah, no, we still don't know that though. Well, how is that? After all these years, and still today we don't know. So the CBC just decided to go down and talk to people at the pumps and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think of these gas prices? What do you think someone's going to say about the gas? I love it. I love paying more for gas. I wish it would go up even more. I wish gas prices would go so high I couldn't even afford it. Yeah. Obviously, we know what they're going to say. What do you think about gas prices? Why do you think that goes so expensive and they can just charge whatever they want whenever they want? Seems like. Why is that even allowed? It has nothing to do with the price of oil or production, price of the barrel at the time. Nothing at all. You know that. We've seen so much evidence about that over time, but nobody seems to get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, we all use the stuff all around the world, but we don't have that answer to that question. Why gas prices operate the way they do. And that's it. Yeah, just a question put out there. If you have the answer to that, let us know. You'll be the first to know that answer. And we can share it with everyone else. So this is a good story, but take the time to read it. The North denied access to new power generation. The Sault Ste. Marie's mayor warns they are crippling our economic development capacity. So, the infrastructure for our energy and hydroelectric is renewable energy. It's green energy. Who would have thought? We had hydroelectricity all these years and it was always green. Pretty cool. But yet we're going to put all of our money and whatever into windmills that last 20 years and break down every week and barely turn when there's no wind and get hardly any energy out of it. And all the parts are made in China. Same with the solar panels. Just the devastation in the earth with all the silicone we have to mine for and all the components for the solar panels. And they're very inefficient. They take up a lot of landscape as well if you want to get anything out of them. So inefficient. But yet hydroelectric generates so much power. Anyways, so read the story. It's about Ontario basically saying we're going to put all of our resources into southern Ontario and not northern Ontario, even though we're producing tons of hydroelectricity up here. And that will reduce the amount of business they can attract because they don't have the power to support new business ventures coming up here. It's a really good article. Have a look at it. So our main story, or whatever, the story we already kind of talked about here, is about the Chinese possible interference. Report, Communist China bribing mainstream Canadian media. That in and of itself. Why didn't you hear about this story from the media? Right? Like, you'd think this would be news. But if you're bribing the very people who are going to be talking about it, a good chance they ain't going to talk about it too much. Okay, here you go. According to Sam Cooper of the Bureau, an unredacted June 2019 National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, the NSICOP report, stated that China was directing journalists to produce favorable media coverage towards Beijing-friendly electoral candidates, as well as pro-CCP propaganda. So here's Sam Cooper's formerly known as Twitter post. I guess now it's called X. I have no idea. In 2015, the PRC consulate in Vancouver developed a plan to influence specific British Columbia television stations to become, quote, pro-China, unquote. Cultivated relationships with key editors, producers, and high-ranking managers to exert influence over their media outlets. And basically they have Beijing's control of the media in Canada enabled election interference. According to CSIS documents, the Bureau's exclusive investigation finds senior Chinese official allegedly instructed journalists in Toronto to support the rise of a federal politician. So we know about that now afterwards. And now we're looking into the Chinese interference in the elections, but the media component of it, right? So what influences elections? Media influences elections, probably more than anything, because that's where the message gets out, right? Formed in 2017, the NSICOP reports directly to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The document allegedly asserts that the CCP has been feeding foreign media outlets, including some unnamed ones in Canada, massive infusions of money, quote unquote. So what does that mean? Massive infusions of money. CSIS assesses that Canadian media outlets have been heavily targeted in this regard, says the report. The People's Republic of China authorities have attempted to use Canadian media outlets in order to deliberately publish false or misleading information. What does Justin Trudeau talk about a lot? Misinformation, right? But who does he claim has the misinformation? Does he say it's because of Chinese interference that we have misinformation? I don't think so. But he's very keen on this very targeted misinformation that we have. But according to this report, the People's Republic of China attempted to use Canadian media outlets in order to deliberately publish false or misleading information. According to CSIS, if you take what CSIS says is true, Victor Ho, former editor for Tsingtao Daily, one of the most widely read Chinese language newspapers in Canada, told Cooper his experiences corroborate the report. Although the report didn't name which outlets are guilty of being captured by the CCP, it stated that the PRC consulate in Vancouver grew relationships with key editors, producers, and high-ranking managers to exert influence over the individuals and, by extension, their media outlets. So some people wonder how this can happen, right? Like, how can you pay off a whole media organization? Like, there's a lot of people involved there, right? So what, you got to pay off the the writers, you have to pay off the anchor, you have to pay off the camera guy, you have to pay off the lighting person, you have to pay off the HR person. No, you just have to pay off key people in the institution who, the one in charge of what gets on the air, the one who makes all the decisions. As long as they're paid off, everything's done. It's almost one-stop shop, right? So you can't publish that. What do you mean? We got this story. Yeah, well, just change these words a little bit and whatever, and then you can publish it. Really? Yeah. Okay. Done. So then that's what comes out. And then everyone else, and a lot of people, like Canadian press, let's say, like if you could somehow pay off the Canadian press, how many news outlets take their stories directly from Canadian press? So you just need one main news organization, you can do a lot of damage just from that, let alone doing it from a lot of the news organizations. Because news, people grab news stories and then they republish them. And they think, well, Canadian press is reputable. Like, why would we question them? We're just going to repost whatever they say. And that's how news is done, let's say, in Canada and in the rest of the world. And that's how a lot of news stories could be wrong, and they get out there. And as long as it comes from a credible source, other journalists will just say, well, hey, obviously it's a credible source, I'm going to use it. So they don't look into it. We shared that video of all the news agencies, the local news, saying the exact same thing, same wording, and then you play the video over each other and everyone's saying the exact same thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like, we think all the journalists do their own deep diving into these stories. They don't. If they did, you'd have them uncovering things, but they don't. And then if they do uncover it and they take it to their editor and the editor says, well, we'd really love to publish this. How about we do that next week or whatever? Great idea. Or whatever they're going to do to make sure that story gets out. Maybe not at the time it's going to be effective, or maybe change some of the wording that makes it less effective even when it comes out at the time. There's many things you can do. It'd be great to be a strategist. You put yourself in the other shoes of someone who's trying to infiltrate you, and it's not hard to think of ways to do it. And if someone like me can think of things like that, I'm sure a lot smarter people can think of even better ways than me. So, it isn't that hard to understand. Although the report didn't name any outlets, right? They did target people with heavy influence in the media industry. So the NCI COP report alleges that in 2015, the PRC, People's Republic of China consulate in Vancouver, developed a plan. They developed a plan. They were strategizing. They were sitting around a table discussing ways they can infiltrate. Imagine that. Imagine that's ever happened once in this world. That there's strategies out there and there's people with different agendas strategizing how to influence others. Interesting concept. So they were strategizing in Vancouver. What were they strategizing about? They were developing a plan to influence specific British Columbia television stations to become pro-China by directly providing them with information and news and offering exclusive invitations. In order to portray China as a positive light, Chinese consulates bossed around journalist associations in Toronto and Vancouver, and dictated which issues will be reported on and from what angle. That's what news is, right? What angle is spin. So you can report on a story till you're blue in the face, but if you have like an angle on it, like you put a spin on it, it's a little different. It's like a pitcher can throw a baseball, right? It's one thing to throw a baseball straight, constantly straight over the plate. Easy for batters to hit it. But it's another thing to throw a baseball and put a little curve on it. And, it's harder for the batter to hit. So nothing different in media. You put a spin on a story, a little slant, and people, they'll read a headline, it's not that important because the headline didn't seem all that important. But if the headline was like end of the world happening today, World War III just started, that headline would get some attention. Some believe it's already started, right? But headlines impact us. And then the stories that follow, different spin, different words mean you can just, an exclamation point makes a difference. A comma, a certain word, allegedly, supposedly, these types of things, and not just coming out and reporting the news for what it really is. You can really, do things and influence. And that's what it's made to do. They strategized ways to influence. So that way we were more pro-China in Canada and went for more pro-Chinese candidates that they deemed would be better suited to their needs that were elected and put into power, right? All right. So Chinese meddling in Canadian media. A mass study of 32,502 articles from mainstream Canadian media between 2000 and 2018 found that their coverage bolsters Chinese economic interests while glossing over its human rights problems. So yeah, when was the last time our media really cracked down on, wait a minute here, there's almost a type of genocide going on over there? Or the coverage of Hong Kong, the way they took it back after the British relinquished their doings there. Kind of a blackout, media blackout. We didn't really say much about it here. So again, right, 32,502 articles were assessed, and that they found that it bolstered economic interests of China while glossing over human rights. On the Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index, China's ranked 179th out of 180 countries, behind only North Korea, while Canada sits in 15th place. So there's Reporters Without Borders Freedom Index. So we have index, right, that teach us what countries are corrupt or not. There's a corruption index, things like this. So we are 15th. So that means we're the 15th country in terms of, I guess you can say, unbiased reporting or uncorrupt, unadulterated reporting. So that means there's 14 countries ahead of us. And I'm sure this isn't going to help anything. So having a country that's only one behind North Korea found truly to be influencing our media. That's the show for the day. Thanks everyone for commenting and being with us. I did my best to get all the comments up on the screen, and I hope you have a great long weekend. Went a little bit over time today, but stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Thanks everyone for joining us from Sudbury, the North Shore, Ontario, Canada, or around the world. We appreciate you. Make sure to join us next time. We won't have a show on Monday as it is a holiday. We'll be back on Tuesday. Thanks everyone. Have a great long weekend, and ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.